Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact on the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
I took a call from a grandmother that was taking care of her premature grandson, and he wasn't breathing. And so I had to walk her through CPR and dispatch the fire department at the same time. And I think having the connection with having my nephew being just born premature, that it made it 10 times worse. And I just remember, like, they got there and they performed CPR. I don't believe the baby made it. And I just looked at my supervisor. I was like, I need a minute. And I got up and I just walked outside and I just bawled. And I walked back in and she said, "You good?" I said, "Yep, I'm good." And I sat back down and took the next call.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Regarded with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader next gen core services, and a big shout out to subscribers. As always, thank you for everything. And I have been out here in North Carolina this week, and it has been awesome. Been teaching, also been recording powerful episodes with 911 professionals out of this great state. And my next guest today is Michelle. She's a 911 telecommunicator with Henderson County Sheriff's Office out of North Carolina. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. As you heard me, I was struggling with my voice already. But also, if you remember yesterday in class, I'd taken my bow tie out, and Zach, who's sitting on the other side, is like, let your hair down. Let your hair down. Oh, man. I was in pain during that time. If you can see, I've got the red marks on my neck.
Yeah.
It was so horrible, man. Like, I don't know what it is, but so it was a brand new shirt. And this happened once before. And I remember walking around the conference afterwards with just like a regular t-shirt. And they're like, dude, what happened to you? Like, did somebody strangle you? I'm like, no, bro. Yeah. I'm like, it was a brand new shirt. And I was talking and turning my head. That was it. That's all I did.
Yeah.
So when everybody left here and I packed up, instead of going back to the hotel, I went straight to Binion's, which, holy moly, they have got some amazing food there.
They do.
Their fried mushrooms. Oh, however, I wasn't expecting the amount that they were going to bring me. They brought me enough to feed like 5 people. And I'm just sitting there. And my server, she goes, "You're probably going to need a box later, aren't you?" I was like, yeah, I will. Because if I'm going to take down the steak, I can't take all of this as well. Right. But It's just been an excellent experience here, and I'm excited to hear more about you. So, how did you get involved in public safety? Because you're going on about 19 years now, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in college and I
Mhm.
needed a job, and I didn't want to work in the library and I didn't want to work in the media center. And the only other like student job they had was a dispatcher for the campus police. And I was like, all right, let's give this a try. And I walked in, and my chief was pushing 350 pounds, like
Mhm.
6'5", and I was just dumbstruck. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? And I sat down and I was like, well, let's go for it. And I got the job and I worked with them for 3 years.
Mhm.
And then I just kind of fell into 911 at my county there. I've been with 5 different departments in and out of 911. But that's kind of my origin story. Was it just kind of happened, and it was just happenstance, and I've loved it since.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you jump in there while in college, and you start learning all of these different things. I mean, do you feel like it got into your blood right away?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Dang. So what were some of the things though that you were dealing with that it just like it just clung on to you?
I think it was just the ability to help people.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of, everybody says that in public safety, but,
Right.
but I mean, ultimately that's kind of, what it was. I liked the camaraderie
Mhm.
that everybody had within public service. I've always been kind of intrigued by public service. Like a fire truck goes by and I stop and I'm just like a little kid in a candy shop,
Right,
like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, or like I loved Rescue 911 as a kid, and none of my family's in public service.
Mhm.
And so when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go for the 911 job, and my mom's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, why not? And like she was like, oh, okay. And I was a volunteer firefighter, and that's how I actually found the 911 position.
Oh,
Was a
that's
fellow
awesome.
firefighter, was a 911 operator, and he was like, I think you'd be pretty good with this. And I'm like, okay, let's try it. And I didn't get it the first try.
Mhm.
They were like, I don't know, you're a firefighter. I'm like, that's not my career. I
Yeah.
don't want to be a career firefighter.
Mhm.
I liked the volunteer side of it. I was like, but I really enjoy sitting behind the desk and helping people in that initial instance of when they need the help, not actually responding out to them.
Right. Yeah. Man. So you get in there and you just immediately it just really gets into your blood and you're digging everything that's going on. But when you first start out, was it overwhelming at all, or was there anything that I guess that kind of surprised you?
I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. I did work for a very small campus police.
Mhm.
And so we really didn't have a whole heck of a lot go on, thankfully.
Mhm.
But we couldn't run like NCIC or DCI or anything like that. We didn't have the ability to do that. So we would have to call the county and get them to do it. And so I don't think that I didn't feel overwhelmed with it.
Mhm.
When I did switch to 911, it was kind of a wake up call of like, holy shit, like this
Right.
is what people deal with. Like, what am I
Yes.
getting myself into?
Yes.
But it stuck with me, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed it, and the people that were there were welcoming, and it was a whole different world back then than it is now.
Oh,
But
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I think some of those eye-opening moments are just like you said, when you go through our daily lives, you see things on social media, you see things in the news, and if you're not in public safety or 911 or whichever, you're like, oh, I wonder what else happened or what else is going on. What else is going on in the city that I live in that I don't know, or the city that I work in that I don't know. And then when you get in there and you do see it, just like you said, it's like a holy shit moment.
Yeah.
You're just, whoa, like this is not what you ever see anywhere else. And also when you see stuff in the news, especially now, I know that I did when I was in dispatch, I would see that and I would look over at like my family or friends or whatever and just be like, there's more to that story.
right.
That's not what happened. They're not saying everything.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then they're like, well, what else happened? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you.
Right.
Or maybe you do and
Right.
stuff. And then their jaws are dropped. Like, that's what you
Yeah.
do? I'm like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what I do.
Hmm.
So you're going through, that time in the beginning. And you said you've moved around on a couple different agencies and such. Do you remember whether it be your first call or some of those earlier calls that you started taking in dispatch?
I think my most impactful call that I took when I first started, my nephew had been born premature.
Mhm.
And I took a call from a grandmother that was taking care of her premature grandson, and he wasn't breathing. And so I had to walk her through CPR and dispatch the fire department at the same time. Um, and I think having the connection with having my nephew being just born
Mhm.
premature, that it made it 10 times worse. And I just remember like they got there and they performed CPR. I don't believe the baby made it. And I just looked at my supervisor, was like, I need a minute.
Mhm.
And I got up and I just walked outside and I just bawled. And I walked back in and she said, "You good?" I said, "Yep, I'm good." And I sat back down and took the next call.
Wow.
And it was, you know, it stuck with me. But I feel like it's a lot better now. In regards to like if you take something like that and it is super impactful, there's a lot more resources for you.
Mhm.
And in my experience, I've been able to go home or, you know, take a break longer than just, you know, 5 minutes, and then come back in and sit back down.
Do you feel like if you had not come back after that break, do you think you wouldn't have come back at all? Or do you think you for sure would have gone back?
I'm pretty sure I would have gone back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at that point I was so new that
Mhm.
it was just like, I can't believe I did this. And this is what my job is going to be. But I knew I was there for the grandmother and I gave, you know, gentle and calming words to her and I did everything in my power to do what we could do to save that baby, but ultimately it wasn't my job necessarily to save the baby.
Mhm.
It was my job to do everything in my power to try and save the baby.
Right.
But ultimately, if the baby dies, it's out of my hands.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's hard for us to learn early on,
Mhm.
when you're first taking calls like that, because and even more so past that, when you've been there, forever, sometimes we blame ourselves, right,
Mhm.
with a lot of these calls, but especially early on, it's like that was all me, and then hopefully there's someone else there to be like, no, that wasn't all you.
Right.
You did everything that you could,
Right.
and that's all we can ask of you. And it sounds like throughout your time, you have had that support there, which
Mhm.
is amazing. And the ability to at least walk off or, take a moment for yourself. There have been other people that I've spoken to who have said, I ended up going outside, cried, and if I had not gone back in, I don't know that I ever would have gone back. I needed to go back in and continue, doing my thing in
Right.
order to let it all set in.
Right.
And it's a hard thing, man, when you were
Mhm.
first getting into it and you're learning all of this stuff and if you don't have someone that's there telling you these important things that you need to hear, then it's just, what are we doing here?
Right.
You're just kind of lost.
Yeah.
So there's so much that that just basically goes into this profession. How in these going on 19 years, how do you feel like this profession has actually changed you?
I feel like I'm a little bit more jaded
Mhm.
towards people. I'm more cautious with where I go. Like they talk about, you know, sitting certain places in restaurants. It's gotten better.
Mhm.
At the one place I worked for about 9 years, it was a large city, and there was a lot of times that I was on edge a lot every time I went out, just because I lived in the county.
Mhm.
I knew everything that happened within the county, and I was reaching my point of burnout at that point where there was just so much crap that happened year after year after year. And there wasn't a lot of support from upper management. And I found myself just in a hole pretty much, and not taking the time to actually take care of me.
Right.
And when I finally reached that breaking point, I was like, I got to get out of this.
Mhm.
I can't do this anymore. I don't want to take another 911 call and listen to somebody die. I can't do it. And that's when I left and I went to a private agency. And I dispatched them for several years until I came up here. And it scared the shit out of me to come back into 911. I
Mhm.
looked at other places that was not 911. Unfortunately, the pay wasn't great. And since
Mhm.
I've been doing this since college, I really had nothing else under my belt to get into. And I was like, well, let me see. Let me try just a small agency that you're actually working for that agency. You're not working for like a consolidated agency.
Right. Yeah.
And so you have a little bit more support within the actual agency. And it has been absolutely fantastic. I can't thank my sheriff enough for being 100% behind us and pushing mental health and just saying, hey, like if you need a day, if you need time, you need somebody to talk to, like do it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that has come so far. Because when I first started, peer support was never a thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it
Same.
was just like, suck it up, buttercup, let's move on.
Right.
Like you got a job to do. And I actually became a peer support member about 10 years ago, and it completely changed the way that I view my own calls, the way I view how other people respond to calls, and that it's like, everybody responds differently, and you don't know everything that anybody else is going through. And so may look at the call and be like, oh, this is just a routine call. Like, why are you getting so upset about it?
Mhm.
But then when you actually sit down and take a moment to talk with them, and it's like, oh, well, that makes sense as to why this is impacting you so hard.
Right. It's an interesting profession.
Mhm.
There's so much, that goes into it, but I understand what you're saying as well about you feel kind of jaded sometimes with whoever it may be or just people in general. And I still 11 years out of dispatch, I still have that high alert. It's getting better in a
Yeah.
sense where I'm the same way. Like if I'm sitting somewhere, they will like someone will put like the hostess, they'll put the menu with my back facing that, and I will turn on
around.
the other
Yep.
side and, because I want a view of
Yeah.
everything that's going on. Because the amount of classes that I remember going to, like one of the things that sticks out. I don't remember who it was who was teaching, but it was about like active shooters and stuff.
Mhm.
And one of the signs of several shooters was it was someone who just simply kind of peeked into a room, looked around, and then left, and then came back. And he's like, what the person was doing was like explaining all of this stuff. And that had always stuck with me. And there was only one time that I remember where someone did something like that. And I was at alert. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, and no, nothing ever happened. But it was something like that where I was
Mhm.
just sitting there trying to like chug my coffee and like
Yeah.
get out of there
Gotta
because
go.
I didn't want to be there. Yeah. And so that kind of freaked me out. Or even now, like there was one time I was sitting in the living room with my kids and I saw somebody walking by and I'm just kind of watching them. They're like, are they okay? I was like, I don't know. I was just making sure that I don't know. This just watching them, just seeing what they're
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
and, and they're like, you took too many calls when you were in
Mhm.
dispatch. It's like, I just want to make sure you guys are safe. I was
Right.
like, that's it. I said,
Yeah.
sometimes that still gets me, but other times it's like, what the hell? They're just doing whatever.
Right.
But there are some of those things that just happen to change you in a certain way.
Mhm.
So if you feel comfortable, of course, is there a call that just kind of, out of all of this time that you've been in dispatch, that just kind of sticks with you?
Well, I told you yesterday about my suicide call.
Mhm.
I think the other one that kind of sticks out, I didn't take the call. I didn't dispatch it, but I was at my center.
Mhm.
It was down in Charleston when we had the Emmanuel 9 shooting. I worked that night, and that was a big catalyst for my center. Um, it was a lot of unknowns. We didn't know who it was. We didn't at first believe what it was, just because it was like, how in the world could 9 people be shot? And we received one phone call.
Right.
And it just blew everybody's mind that when that first officer got on scene and he was like, yeah, like we need help. And just all of the other subsequent calls, the bomb threats that we got, that where they had taken the family of the deceased to a local hotel, and then we were getting bomb threats that they were going to bomb that hotel. And then them having to try and move these people to other places where nobody could know where they were so that they were safe, and just finally being able to figure out who this person was because of CCTV, and finally being able to put that face to a suspect, and then going, well, where the hell is he?
Right.
Is he going to do this again? And then finally hearing they've got him, they found him, that it was just like a relief. And it was like, okay, this person can be brought to justice. And he has. That was a big thing for our center. We had just, I can't remember if it was before or after everything's run together. But we'd also lost one of our deputies to a shooting. And then subsequently that same night, we lost one of our radio technicians that was at the radio shop trying to boost signal because of just the sheer amount of radio traffic that we had because of the officer involved shooting. He died of a heart attack that same night. And we lost dispatchers. We lost another officer the same night that we lost a canine officer, that the officer was an off-duty, and he was killed in a motorcycle accident. And the canine was killed in a on-duty traffic accident with a DUI driver. And it's just all of that kind of, we lost our communication supervisor. He was working and got crushed by his truck. And that was not even 2 weeks before we lost the officer and the canine officer, or the canine, that it all just happened within years of each other. And it completely devastated our center. And it really showed because we lost a lot of people, and people were just realizing we were so understaffed that we were working enormous amounts of overtime, and we never had time off to process anything. And that was when I realized, like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to come out on the other end, right? And but also the fact that you had the awareness to know that you needed to step back, because sometimes, and folks that I know about or spoken to or whichever, sometimes people don't have that awareness and they just keep going and going and going until they finally snap. And by that time, then the way I put it is, and I think I mentioned it yesterday as well, but if not, I'll say it now. Like, basically listen to your body, because if you don't, eventually your body's going to make you listen.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight back.
Yeah.
And crawl back up from whatever rock bottom that is. And it can be bad, but I'm glad that you had that awareness to step back, do what you had to do, and here you are.
Yeah. And I didn't realize how bad my body was taking an impact from it. And when I left, I lost 75 pounds without even trying to do anything. And it was because I was sleeping. I was eating better. And it was like, holy shit, like that job was doing that to me because I wasn't able to focus on myself. And that's why I try to tell people all the time, like, you got to be able to take care of you, and don't take all the overtime. It's not worth it. Yes, the money's great, but in the long run, it's not worth it.
Right. Yeah. You're, it's crazy the amount of things that stress can do to your body. And a guest that I had on once, I was reading her book, preparing for the episode with her, and all of this stuff that I was reading, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, all of these issues that I've been dealing with actually is coming from secondary trauma and stress and everything. And I was talking to her about it in the episode, and she's just like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, man, that's another thing I would go back in time and tell myself, like, holy crap. But there's a lot that comes with this. And I'm glad that you tell other people as well, just from your experience, that, take care of yourself, because in the long run, it is going to help.
Yeah.
It has been awesome to have you on this episode and learn more about you and hear your story and your perspective on so many different things, and also to have had you in class as well. I've got one last question for you as we go into the wrap up of this. And it's a question that I asked yesterday to the entire class. And I told everyone, like, you don't have to answer it now. You just something to take with you. But I'm asking you here. So and you're not going on 19 years being in public safety and everything, but if you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning, what would you tell yourself? And again, it's not to change anything because I feel like we go through a lot of stuff to bring us to where we are at today. But if you could go back and talk to yourself, what is some advice you would give yourself?
You are not your job. Your job does not define you. I think I was married to my job for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally made that realization that I was like, I am so much more than my job. My job is just what I do.
Right.
It is not who I am. I wish I could go back and tell myself that. Give yourself grace. Like you're human, and your job, ultimately, you're just a butt in a seat. And at the end of it, when you leave, they're going to put somebody else in there.
Right.
And it's your family and your life outside of work is so much more important than constantly being at work and marrying your job, pretty much.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much
Yes, thank you.
for everything and for being on and what you do for this profession. Thank you so much. Hang tight one moment. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. The easiest way to find everything is to simply go to links.co/WTT podcast. You'll find email, social media, everything on there. And this episode has been sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services. You can see this on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live. And then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone. And we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But imagine listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.